Hey guys, Doug here. I've had some interest on how I did the direct steering on my Craftsman GT, and I figured I'd do a video. So as you can see, I put both of them up in the air, courtesy of the tractor, and I figured I'd take a peek under there and show you all how I did it. Now I can't take credit for all this. I hassled Doc Sprocket, or Sprocket's Garage on YouTube, a lot about how to do it because he is on DIY go-karts. And you know, he's been doing stuff like this before, so I asked him a lot of stuff about how to do it, and quite honestly, it works out pretty well. Obviously, I have handlebars, and that is for added leverage because the stock steering wheel flexed a lot, and it didn't give me enough room to use my muscles. So I put a handlebar on. Obviously, it's a little wobbly. I'll have to fix that later on, but here we go, is a full left turn. So as you can see, it's pretty sharp, and right's not as sharp, but it's pretty, pretty close to stock. So let's go underneath and see how well this works. Underneath here, you can see a lot of familiar things. You have your tie rod and your drag link. What is missing is the steering gear, and I have my other one lifted up, and that is what it's missing. This is a stock steering setup on these GTs. Dual tie rods, single drag off of a gear, and obviously I got rid of all that. Why did I get rid of all of it? It was missing the gear. So instead of finding and spending a bunch of time hunting down a new assembly and spending a bunch of money on it, I decided to go with this. The most expensive part of this was the steel. This is 16 gauge half-inch tube steel, square tube, and I spent I think $8 for it at Tractor Supply. Obviously, I put nuts and stuff on it too. The ball joints are all reused from the dual tie rods, and I'll get to that in a second. But it works out pretty well. Right there, you can see the steering gear, and I welded an extension onto it. It needed, according to ARMA standards, for direct steering, you need to have it around 2-3 inches. This is close to about 4, I think. And I welded a bolt into the bottom of it too, to attach the pitman arm. And as you can see, there's a long bolt here, and that is because on top you can see, you can't see it real well, but there's actually a tab, and that is so it doesn't rotate on just a single bolt. It's really long for a steering stop, so it doesn't roll over. As you can see, as it gets pretty far there, it bumps. I bent it. That wasn't, well, actually it was pretty hard. I only had a yellow MAP gas bottle torch, and I clamped one end in the vise, and I heated up this one section here, and I put a pipe wrench on the other end, or a monkey wrench, whatever you want to call it, and put as much force into it as I could, and that's what I ended up with. Holes. This one starts 2.5 inches from the end, and after this one, they're all spaced an inch for adjustability. This can actually be removed and put in there just in case, but it doesn't need to. So you do that. Adding extra holes actually will help, like I said before, with adjustability. And it just looks a lot cooler too, instead of having one hole or a bunch of little holes drilled really close together. Same thing goes with this arm. This is actually welded roughly 30 degrees off from this stock arm right there. I just welded that on, and about 30 degrees. Same thing with this, about 2.5 inches from the end for the first hole, then holes every inch or so. The tie rod runs across the top, and that is because the drag link gets really close to it. And the steering stop for right hand turns is actually the drag link bumping, so I didn't have to put a steering stop there like I did down there. Fearless Front did a pretty good video on steering stops, up here. But did that. This has to go over top, and the ends are just the old dual tie rods on the front. You can see there's a ball joint there. All I did was I cut them in half. I threaded the ends. I think that was 5/16, 16. I don't remember. I'll put it down in the description. But I just threaded that. They're all right-hand threads, you know, regular stuff. I welded flange nuts on the end of my tube steel and screwed them in, and you know, added in extra nuts to hold it so it doesn't move around. So not only can I adjust it here at the ball joint for, you know, finer threads, so that's really small changes, or I can adjust it with the coarse threads. And they're not as good as Heim joints, but until I get the money to do it, to put Heim joints on, it really doesn't matter. So, you know, if you want to go direct steering, you know, this is actually pretty low budget, but you have to make sure that you get all this stuff done right. And as I had showed you before, you still get pretty good range of motion. There's still a little bit of space until it hits that bump stop and left turns, but that's as tight as it'll turn. Right turn's not so bad. Now direct steering, they use this in karting because it's more responsive. However, if you're off-roading, I would suggest keeping the gears, maybe tightening them up or something so they're not, you know, as sloppy. You know, you can wiggle the handle, the steering wheel around pretty good, and there's no response there. But with this, it's really jerky, you know, because it's more responsive. So all that, you know, bumps and stuff is going to go straight to the handlebars, and these actually hit my knees when I'm sitting, so I'm gonna have to do something about that. But you know, if you're in a high-speed application, I highly recommend this. Don't use ball joints, use Heim ends. I just had to do it because I was missing the steering gear, and you know, it turned out pretty good, I think. 30 degrees, you know, off of here and on the front, that'll help you with your right turns. But you know, it's really not as bad. You know, this is my first time doing it, and like I said, I had to ask Doc Sprocket a lot on it. But it's really not that hard to do. Heim ends, you'll probably run about $60 putting everything together. You know, that steel and everything else. But you know, it's going to be a lot worth it compared to, you know, these crappy things right here. So, if you have any more questions, feel free to hit up my build thread. I also have a bunch of in-progress pictures of building this. Or hit me up on Facebook. You can send the All Terrain Lawn Tractor Forum page message, or you can tag me in a comment on Maine Mud Mowers or something like that, and I'll try to help you out. Doc Sprocket, he helped me out a lot with this too, so you can hassle him with more technical stuff if I can't answer it. So that's all I have for this video. Sorry it's a little crappy. It's been a while since I've actually made a video for anything. So thanks for watching, and I will talk to everybody later.